guys came to play for the money. On 7 good ponies and some damn good swing.
Hi everyone, welcome to the third Swan Cup video podcast. My name is Alex Wrobel from the Inverell Polocrosse Club, and we're going to endeavour to complete a podcast every week in the lead up to the 2021 Inverell Swan Cup. I'm the president of the Inverell Polocrosse Club, and we're going to use this podcast to provide you with information about the Swan Cup and meet the people behind the scenes, as well as competitors, sponsors, vendors, agents, the Australian Stock Horse Society, and all others involved in the culmination of our amazing event. Our event will run from the 8th to the 11th of July 2021, and our open men's polocrosse and sale nominations open on the 19th of April and close on the 10th of May 2021. I'd like to reintroduce and welcome Cameron Neville to our podcast. How are you going, Cameron?
Yeah, terrific, mate. You?
Yeah, going good, thanks. And I'm going to introduce Barry Moore, the Australian Stock Horse Society board member, and welcome him as our special guest on our third Swan Cup podcast. How are you going, Barry?
Yeah, good, thanks, Alex. And yeah, good evening to you also, Cameron. And it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Stock Horse Society.
Excellent, thank you. First of all, thanks again, Barry, for coming on board and doing a podcast with us for the Swan Cup. For those out there that aren't all that familiar with you, I'm just going to start off with some get to know you questions. So first of all, where are you from?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. So originally I grew up down in Singleton, down in the Hunter Valley, and grew up on a family dairy farm, and that's where I gained my love for stock horses, I guess. And we didn't always have stock horses per se or registered horses in the beginning in those early days, but yeah, once I sort of, my eyes were open to that world, that was the way I headed. And from a teenager, I sort of got involved with the Stock Horse Society and started to own some registered horses, and then camp drafting and showing sort of followed, and it's been a part of my life, basically ever since then. And I also started way back when I was sort of in my early, I think I was probably only about 18 or 19 when I bred my first horse, and have continued to breed up until this day. So, and obviously been involved in branches and now with the board. So yeah, the Stock Horse Society's been a big part of my recreational side of my life anyway.
Excellent. And the Singleton area, part of the Hunter Valley, really big area for Australian stock horse breeding. Who would you say would be some of your biggest influences growing up, as far as names and horses and people?
Yeah, well, you're spot on the money there. It's been a great breeding ground for not only horses but for competitors as well. And I guess personally, I have to probably thank Neville and Lynn Holtz for the help they gave me getting involved with stock horses, and through their influences, I guess, I sort of have bred my horses based on sort of Kenny Brown's bloodlines and the Rosebrook bloodlines, and probably Will John over at Gloucester there. And so yeah, some very prominent studs there. And to talk about people, I guess when I first started out down in that area, it was Gerald O'Brien and Matt and Brad Holtz were sort of the leaders in their field, and they were probably beyond everyone else by a number of years. They were so well groomed as horsemen and competitors.
Yeah, and it's great to see that some of the people that you named have not only been involved in the Stock Horse Society and horse breeding, but they've also crossed over and spent a lot of time in our polocrosse world as well. So it's really great to see that those links between the Stock Horse Society and the polocrosse fraternity have been there for a long time.
Yeah, that's very true. And we also down there, obviously, Joy Poole's a big part of that Hunter area, and herself and her horses have been, phenomenal throughout the polocrosse world for a long time. So, yeah.
All right, I might move into our first serious question talking about the Swan Cup. So first of all, what is the view of the Australian Stock Horse Society board with the Swan Cup?
Yeah, look, when you guys first put your proposal forward to us, I have to say we were all very excited from that very first phone call because, you know, polocrosse is an area that really highlights the attributes of the Australian stock horse. And, you know, to try and build a relationship there, there's been sponsorship into, you know, the World Cup and different things like that from the Stock Horse Society. But I think what you guys are doing with this incentive sale, it really brings us together because, you know, you guys need us for the integrity of the horses you're going to sell. And, you know, we as the Stock Horse Society, we really want to build that relationship and, you know, and there's no doubt about it, it's an avenue for more membership for us. And you know, we've recognised that it's sort of known out there that there's a lot of horses in that polocrosse area that aren't necessarily registered, but can be registered and hold a lot of our good bloodlines. So you know, it's an exciting time and something for us, you know, for both groups to build on, I think.
I think Barry, mate, with the approaching yourself and Brett when we first mentioned it, you know, like neither of you have probably been in the polocrosse background, but then all of a sudden, you know, we come to you with this idea and this, and it sort of come out of nowhere. My interest is like the amount of members that the Australian Stock Horse Society have, and what I'm interested in is like, you've seen the success at Nutrien that we just had the sale. I'm sort of wondering whether we get members of the Australian Stock Horse Society that didn't sell a horse there, or have a horse at home that you think shit, it's just not going to plan with the going into the stock horse sale or to the nationals that mightn't be quite up to that level. But do you think we might find a member that might say, well, we've got a pretty handy horse here that I think that just might play a game of polocrosse and looking for somewhere to go? Do you think that could be an angle that could help us?
Yeah, look, I definitely think it is. And I think it'll work, you know, both ways, as far as you'll get that person that, you know, might not have been lucky enough to get a horse into Nutrien or the like of that, but they may think, oh, well, here's an avenue. It's an approved Australian stock horse sale, so it's going to be the real deal, and therefore it's going to bring, you know, buyers, and that's the other side of the coin. I don't think you'll just have polocrosse buyers there at that sale. I think you'll have people there that genuinely want to buy a quality Australian stock horse, not necessarily to play polocrosse. So you'll have that avenue as well. And you know, the incentive side of it, I think that's a big part, and we see that at Nutrien over here with the Classic. That's a big part of the interest that turns up at that sale. People just want to be involved, and your sale should be no different. Like, you're going to have that open men's competition, which is going to attract an audience, and then going, you know, a year ahead when those horses start coming back to that Swan Cup, for that those incentive matches, you know, that's going to draw a crowd again. So, and that's what gets people in. You see it over here with the Classic, and it's just been getting stronger and stronger every year.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, you know, like if you're an open men's player and you're coming to play in our competition, like realistically, you should be looking to bring a registered Australian stock horse with you and put it through the sale, sell him and buy one back and keep you in the program. 100% exactly the same as what they do at the Classic. You know, the people travel from Northern Territory, WA, just to be a part of the event because that's their holiday. That's what they do. Like maybe one day ours gets to that stage, but you know, we're starting out and we're starting from a small base. I really think if the open men get behind it, like they could drive that without having to lean on too many outside people, and then all of a sudden we get people there who might buy a horse and draft it. You know, like that's the beauty of the Australian stock horse.
Yeah, that's definitely right, and I mean that'd be the goal long term, and you got to have dreams and goals, and sometimes, you know, if you don't set them big enough, well, you never achieve anything. But you know, you've only got to listen to Mark Barton talk about, you know, the early stages of that, and you know, he talks a lot about Charlie Maher and that Charlie was the driving force, and you know, I heard him on a podcast the other night say it didn't matter what barriers were put up in front of Charlie, he just kept finding a way to say, yeah, yes, we can accomplish it. We can get around that. We can make it work.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Cameron and I, from the early on, and a few other members that have been, our club members that have been involved in it, have seen, you know, visualize that dream of where we want this to go and what we want it to become and how we want it to be. You know, the calendar, the bit on the calendar that everyone else plans their other events around. We want this to be something where, you know, it's not even like people with Nutrien, the classic, it's not even a thought pattern of whether or not they're going. Like it's on the calendar 12 months in advance, and all your other events are worked around that to lead up to that event. And we're hoping that this becomes one of those annual events for our club and for the people of our sport and for horse breeders of the Australian stock horse to come along every year and be a part of. So that's how I see it. I don't know if you want to add something onto that, Cameron, but that's how I see the dream for me as our club, our sport, and also our horses.
Well, I see the Australian, well, the polocrosse people, we're not necessarily limited, but this is just another angle where they can go and you know, not necessarily make a living out of it, make it more professional, and then all of a sudden you know, they're breeding a few better horses, they're registering their horses, there's more members at the Australian Stock Horse Society, and all of a sudden we might get a member from the Australian Stock Horse Society pick up a racket, and he's going to a carnival, he's watching it, he's taking his family. Like, I think we're exposing the best of both worlds. We're giving them an option to be professional with the Australian Stock Horse Society, and we're giving them an option to come and have a game and be a part of the Polocrosse Association. And like Barry said earlier, we're trying to align each other and help each other and run off each other.
And I think it's good there, Barry. Earlier you mentioned the support that the Stock Horse Society put behind the World Cup, and I think at that event it proved to a lot of people really well. You know, we had a lot of horses in the pools from Berrigoon that have spent years and years, you know, putting time and effort into their breeding. And turned up with those horses and proved not only to, you know, people in the polocrosse in Australia, but around the world that this is a great event and this is something, these are great horses for these events. And a lot of people, I think, are taking their lead. There's other people in our sport as well, like the Hayfies in Queensland. There's the Simmons family in Victoria have been breeding horses for a long time for polocrosse, and I think that can only be beneficial. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, Alex. And look, we at the Stock Horse Society, you know, we want the Australian stock horse to have the highest profile of any breeder horse in Australia. And, you know, those horses are out there, they're playing polocrosse, you know, at a high level. And you mentioned some studs there, and they obviously get recognised as stock horses, but, you know, there'd be other horses out there, very good horses as well, that may not be registered, but are stock horses, and we're not seeing that recognition flow through that they belong to our society. And another point there too is you talked about Barragoon, and I don't know, I'm not up to speed with all of the top polocrosse breeding studs, but if you looked at Rosebrook and Barragoon, and they're breeding horses that are crossing over into the camp draft field and the show programs, and so that just proves that those Australian stock horses have those attributes that we strive for those horses to be able to cross over amongst those different disciplines.
Definitely. Cameron, did you have any more questions for Barry?
Yeah, mate. So I know the Australian Stock Horse Society has really got our back with this Swan Cup and have been keen to help us out. Have the Australian Stock Horse Society got anything else on the calendar, or anything else they're trying to push for that would be on the polocrosse calendar in the future?
Yeah, look, we definitely, polocrosse is always sort of on the horizon there as part of the society's sponsorship. Like we touched on what they've done for the World Cup there at different times, and those were some quite significant amounts of financial sponsorship. But we're looking at the moment for this. Obviously, the Stock Horse Society celebrating its 50th year this year since its inception in 1971, and that's a huge milestone. And one of the events that we're planning for this first half of the year is a national polocrosse carnival, or an Australian championship carnival, and that'll be for registered horses and financial members, obviously, as are all our events. And by putting that on, that's another way of trying to bridge that gap and give polocrosse people a reason to belong to our society. And so hopefully that one there is not fully developed yet, that idea, but it's definitely something we've marked on the calendar that we want to do, and we're looking like a date in June, but hopefully we'll be able to nut that one right out and do some planning for that this coming week at our board meeting.
Mate, I used to compete at the stock horse shows and a few years ago, and I'm just getting back into it now, and it seems to be record numbers, I would say, at most agricultural shows, and we've got our Glen Innes show this weekend, and I expect there'll be some big numbers there. Do you ever think we might get back to the day where the polocrosse runs a New South Wales Queensland game or something like that at a national event?
Look, it would be incredible. Like at our national show, we have a vast array of disciplines. We run obviously the camp drafting and the show classes, and the dressage has become part of our program there, and this year we're including a show jumping program as well. The biggest trouble with adding polocrosse, and it definitely has been part of the discussion for our national show, but being that we're at ALEC, it's been a little bit difficult with coming up with the right surface to play a game of polocrosse on. And basically what our decision was in the end was that if we can't deliver, the best possible surface to get you guys to come and play, on your top level horses, well, that really wouldn't be fair to ask to put it on that program and ask you to come and play on something that wasn't sort up to scratch. So I guess, so that's probably why we developed the standalone event, or we are developing the standalone event, and that way we can host that at polocrosse fields. So therefore the polocrosse players will have that trust that they're going, to be able to play on a field that's going to be up to scratch.
You're not going to jump in and have a sale with it, are you, and copy us?
Oh dear. Who told you about that? No, definitely not. No, we'll we'll leave that one to you guys. And I mean, this has been what, sort of 18 months in the planning, nearly. Like it was pretty tough there last year on you guys. You'd done a lot of work, and you were you had our approval, and we're all on board. And then obviously the COVID shut it all down, and you had to postpone it. So I think the only thing that might have done for you is the anticipation might be building a little bit higher.
We could only hope so. We could only hope.
Yeah. It's just starting to wear you out.
Yeah. Everyone will be fired up and wanting to come, and Cameron and I might be just worn out and busted by the time we get there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, look, I'm sure you've got more people in the background that are helping you out, especially, you know, through your Inverell Polocrosse Club, and we've got the border branch of the Stock Horse Society up there in your area as well, and I know you'll be calling on guys from that group to help with inspections and making sure that all the horses meet their paperwork, etc. at that sale.
Yeah.
So with that, mate, with that, you know, you're going to get a player from the Hunter Valley might ring the Stock Horse Society and say, look, I want to put a horse in the Swan Cup. I think he's by this horse, and I think he's out of that horse. Is there a way that they can get in touch with the society and work through that and become a member and be ready to go for April, like for their nominations?
Yeah, most definitely. Like, you know, head office, we've got some terrific people there at head office, and they're only a phone call away, and any of those questions can be answered very well by a number of people up there. We most recently, in the last 12 months, developed the base registry, and it's since been adopted into the Constitution. But basically, the base registry is our bottom tier of registration, and what it asks for some heritage stock horse parentage, and the minimum parentage is 25%. No, it's a parent, a grandparent, or 2 great grandparents, and that delivers you your 25%. So the rest of the breeding is not considered. That is the main requirement for that base registry, is that heritage stock horse requirement. And obviously those horses, they need to have an inspection and pass an inspection as well. But and we found in the last sort of 6 to 12 months that has picked up, you know, a lot of horses that would have been hard to register in the past with the old special merit requirements and the way we used to do it like that. But yeah, this base registry, I'm sure we'll pick up some of those horses in your polocrosse area.
So, mate, you have a horse turn up to the Swan Cup sale, and we've got our 2 inspectors there that, you know, clarify that is the horse and that belongs to that lot. Really, as long as the horse has got the same markings, got the branding, and you've got your paperwork and you're a financial member, you can't really go wrong. Am I on the right path?
Yeah, you are. And look, that sort of information is always delivered to members prior to a sale to make sure your horse's paperwork's correct before you get to that sale and that inspection. You don't want to turn up at that inspection and, you know, he's showing a white hind near side leg on the paperwork, and realistically it's on the offside. And that little anomalies like that do happen. But so it's best to make sure that's right before you get there. In regards to the branding, we have got a new ruling with branding, because lots of horses, or not lots, but on several occasions, horses will turn up and their brand isn't recognisable. So rather than people trying to rebrand horses, we brought in a rule that if a horse's brand, if part of the brand's there and you can say, well, look, that is a part of a 1 and that's part of a 3 underneath it, and that's what it says on the paperwork, what they do then is ask you to have that horse microchipped, and that microchip number will then be placed on the paperwork, and that will be enough to allow that horse to move through into that sale. So ideally, you're not trying to reject horses and kick them out for little issues, and that's why that ruling was brought in. So going forward with that, like once that horse that has that branding anomaly, once it's got its microchip in place, that will become its form of identification.
You just don't want to find cotton.
No, you don't want the paint washing off them.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But look, they inspected, nearly 300 horses there at Nutrien, and there might have only been a handful that had a few little issues that were all rectified there on the ground. So to my knowledge, that there was no horses sent home or rejected from the sale. So most things can be worked out, and that new ruling definitely helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Is it true that
it'd be bugger if you travelled all the way to the show and you'd grabbed the wrong papers out of the filing cabinet before you left?
Yeah, well, that would be trouble. But again, I'm sure something like that could be rectified. We've got the avenue to be able to jump online and pull up a horse's registration very quickly nowadays. So I'm sure the ladies from head office and the inspectors would be able to sort out most issues. It'd really be if there was no branding on the horse at all, and if there was a marking discrepancy, like that's where you'd be looking at, this could be an issue and this horse may need to be rejected. So again, it just comes down to people making sure of that before they leave home.
Definitely.
So it would be a good idea, wouldn't it, for most of our clubs that are going to run a carnival, like whether or not they want to be part of the Swan Cup or not, to maybe get in touch with their branches or their zone areas and ask them to come along, and if a horse needs to be registered, they find out how and they can answer a few questions. Like, I'm sure that the Stock Horse Society would be more than willing to help.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that could happen, and you could even take that to another level. And there's no reason that inspectors couldn't be asked to actually come to a carnival to inspect horses for registration, because you might, from an inspector's point of view, he might be able to do 10 horses in one day, all in the one spot, rather than travelling, from property to property. So those kind of things. It's just about communication and seeing if it's something that'll benefit the polocrosse players to do that, and then I'm sure if you got in touch with a local inspector, they'd be more than happy to assist.
Very good, mate.
With the increase, the hope of this sale for us is that we increase the amount of registered horses, Australian Stock Horse registered horses in our sport. Would that open up for more of an avenue for the Stock Horse Society to support more local carnivals with how they could maybe offer, best Australian male stock horse of the carnival and best Australian stock horse female player of the carnival, those sorts of prizes into the sport? I know some clubs, and especially in the Hunter Valley, it's always been a common practice, and I think it might have been something that was pushed by Joy Poole along the way. But is that something that the society could really get behind?
Yeah, there's no doubt about different things like that, and I think my thought process is that by taking these steps forward, and like your sale, aligning ourselves together and working together, there's no reason that the relationship just can't continue to build. And things like those pony or horse awards that you've talked about, that can become a communication between a polocrosse club and their local stock horse branch as well. And lots of times that's your first avenue to contact is your local branch. Contact your local branch and put forward a sponsorship application there, and then it it can move higher and higher up the hierarchy depending on the level of competition. But we run a youth point score award that runs yearly, and that covers all disciplines. So lots of times you'll see in the journal those youth competitors that win prizes. They win them for polocrosse. So there's definitely already areas being covered there around what you're talking about. So there's no reason why further developments can't be made going into the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, mate, as far as I'm concerned with the help that we have got from the Australian Stock Horse Society, Alex, myself, and the Inverell Polocrosse Club, like, I know you've got to follow procedures and everything like that to get things right, but I don't think we could have found the Australian Stock Horse Society more helpful in any way to get something to happen. And we really appreciate the Australian Stock Horse Society showing us a bit of confidence and getting behind us and wanting to help the sport and also help our club at the same time. So I think if anyone out there is hesitant about touching base with the Australian Stock Horse Society, you shouldn't be, because they're more than helpful. And the experiences that I've had with dealing with the board members and all the way to the top, it's just been really good. So I've got nothing but admiration for the Australian Stock Horse Society for what they've done for us.
Definitely. All right. Did you have any?
Yeah, well, I thank you for that.
Oh, sorry, Barry.
No, I was just going to thank Cameron for those thoughts. That's all.
Yeah. Did you have any closing comments, Barry, before we go? Is there any last things that you wanted to say about the Swan Cup, about the Stock Horse Society?
Oh, look, we're just looking forward to it, and personally, myself, I'm just looking forward to this coming to fruition for the Inverell Polocrosse Club and you two guys, and I'll be really excited to be a part of that and to be there and see how it unfolds. And I think what the other thing to remember, because I guess what a lot of people want to know is, well, what's in it? What benefit is there to me to be a member of the society or to have registered horses? And having registered horses and being a member, I think it value adds to your horse, and it's evident through that Nutrien Classic sale. Like you see there the other day, the stock horses were bringing some really good prices. There's one heritage mare there made $47,500, and we put together some heritage stock horse incentives as well for that sale, and the heritage stock horses ended up making an average of $18,000 there at the Nutrien Classic, and that's an excellent result. So I just think, it'll value add to your horses. Like, you might already have horses that are terrific polocrosse horses, and then I think to put that registration next to them and say that they're a registered Australian stock horse, I really think that will value add.
Definitely.
Well, the beauty with that is, mate, is that if they're not registered, they can't come. So if they are registered, you're allowed to be there. You can be a financial member. You can be a part of the event. If you think it's all too hard, well, maybe it's just not for you. So I just think you got to, if you want to take it to a new level and be professional about it, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Definitely. One final little question. This one's probably a little bit cheeky, Barry, but have you got any horses that you might bring along to the sale?
Well, as a matter of fact, I have got a mare there that I have got a mare there that I'm hoping to bring, and hopefully the time this year gives me enough time to prepare her. So, and we sort of touched on, and I don't want to talk about my own horse and myself too much, but we did touch on it early in the sale and early in this podcast, that there might be members out there that don't play polocrosse but might believe their horses are well suited to that. Well, I've definitely got horses there that I think would play the game, even though it hasn't been my sport in the past. So from a breeder's point of view, it's a great opportunity to say, well, you know what, there's my article, there's what I breed, put her up in the sale, and give her the opportunity for someone to buy her, bring her back to that Swan Cup, and let's see if she can play.
Definitely. And
I hope so. I hope there's a lot of them.
Yeah, me too. So just a reminder for everyone before we go, our event will run from the 8th to the 11th of July 2021, and our Open Men's Polocrosse and Sale nominations will open on the 19th of April and close on the 10th of May. Barry Moore, thanks for your time, much appreciated, and thanks for the Stock Horse Society for all the wonderful support.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks, Barry.
Cameron. Thanks for spending some time with us again, and we'll catch everyone next time.
So get your team together, get fired up. So I can have a chop at you at the Inverell Swan Cup.